This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-electric Prologue SUV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the generous passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
From the Fifth Quarter Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to Coach Unplugged. And now, your host, Steve Collins.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Coach Unplugged. So excited you decided to join us today. Before I jump into the podcast, go over and leave a 5-star review. We really love those reviews. Leave some comments. I read all of them, and we would really appreciate that. But before we get started, I would definitely want to give a big shout out to our two sponsors. First of all, Dr. Dish, the #1 shooting machine on the market, bar none. Mention Coach Unplugged, you get $450 off, and you'll get the best customer service you'll ever expect. Just mention Coach Collins, and they'll take really good care of you. Also, go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It is the one-stop shop for basketball coaches. It's something. When I started teachhoops.com, it was what I would have wanted as a young coach before, all the state championships and all the nationally ranked teams that I've coached. And not to brag, just to kind of tell kind of my journey, I would have killed for this stuff because it would have made my life so much easier. A little bit of everything that you need to become a better basketball coach. And we are the only people out there that offer 14-day free trial because we believe in it so much. Follow the roadmap, work on your craft, and you get me one-on-one mentoring. So I can't imagine anything better than that. I don't know. Anyway, go over and check it out, and let's head off to the podcast. So I think you might be the coach. You might be my first repeater. I don't know. I have to go back and look. I think I've had rewinds before on my podcast, but I don't know if I've had a repeat guest. So you're in rare company, I guess, on Coach Unplugged.
Well, I appreciate that. I feel very special,
So just remind everybody kind of your background. You can give the kind of the paraphrase version. If they want to go down and hear the whole thing, they can go back to episode 84 is what I said.
It was. That's correct.
Yep. So go back and you just give a quick summary, and then we'll jump into kind of what you're doing, and we'll just start talking hoops again.
Sure. Yeah. My name's Tim Rice, and I'm basically a longtime college and high school basketball coach. Also coached internationally, originally from the Alabama Gulf Coast, and I have worked in Division I all the way down to middle school basketball, and spent about a year in Ireland almost working with Basketball Ireland, the governing body for FIBA in the country, and then also was a head college basketball coach at the Division III level, and also the Bible college level for a couple of years. Currently a full-time online faculty member. I have a pretty cool gig, actually. Gives me a lot of flexibility.
You have a good gig.
Yeah, I do. I'm actually a full-time faculty member, actually the director of the Doctor of Psychology program at the University of the Rockies in Denver, Colorado. And also work as an adjunct faculty member for 3 other universities, possibly a 4th coming on the way.
Okay.
And so, yeah, keeps me
that
busy.
Intrigues. So there's a couple of things I want to dive into. First one is the professorship. So can you do that from anywhere? Like, could you live in Vermont and be the professor there? Because everything's online?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. We have
Okay.
so we have a faculty member that lives in Anchorage, Alaska, actually.
Really?
Yeah, as long as it's for our school, you have to rules stipulate that we have to be in the United States, whether that's continental or the
Okay.
U.S. anywhere. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
And I wrote my master's thesis for Dartmouth on distance
Sure.
education.
Oh, you
So
did?
it did. So it intrigues me a little bit. That, I think obviously I wrote that in the late 90s. So distance education was different in the late 90s than it is now. It was 20 years.
Right.
That's 20 years of elapsed since I wrote that thesis. But it's interesting. Okay, a couple thoughts on this. It has nothing to do with basketball, so people are just going to have to deal with it for a second. So do you think gender bias breaks down because of the of you doing it over the internet?
I suppose. Well, honestly, for me, I just look at the student as the student. I
Right.
never look at. I would say that when in our online platform, we a lot of times some of our students, we might not even see pictures of them sometimes.
Oh, you might not even know them. Okay, because
Yeah.
I just read an article about there's even hidden bias with doctors. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying you're biased. I'm just saying we all have these hidden underneath things. You know this, and they're just talking about doctors with heart attacks and that they don't diagnose it as much. Even female and male doctors don't diagnose it as much with females as they do with males.
Yeah.
And all this kind of stuff. So there's this bias that we have to fight. But
Sure.
my part of my thesis was that would break down, especially if you don't know the gender. It's like you can't have a bias if you don't know. It's just a person. It's just an emoji or something there that you're teaching.
And that's it.
Yeah, it really is. That's intriguing. And where did you coach at the D3 level? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I was a head coach at Hiram College in Hiram, Ohio, in the North Coast Athletic Conference. So Same league as Wittenberg, Worcester, Ohio Wesleyan, Oberlin, Denison, Kenyon, Allegheny.
And how long did you
Wabash?
do that?
3 years.
And did you have prior? And I'm just asking these questions for some of the younger coaches. Did you have prior experience at the college level before you got hired for that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I had been before that job. That was in from 2003 to 2006. Before that time, I had gotten my first head college coaching job at 27 years old in 1997. So I was at Calvary Bible College, now Calvary University in Kansas City, Missouri. I was there for 2 years. And I had also worked in Owatonna, Minnesota for 2 years at a little school called Pillsbury College, which no longer is in existence, another Christian school. And then I'd worked at Williams College, 99-2000, for Harry Sheehy, who is, athletic director at Dartmouth. And so, he left Williams to go to Dartmouth.
Right.
So I had a decent amount, and I'd also been an assistant coach at Grove City College, another Division III school north of Pittsburgh, for 3 years before getting the Hiram job. So yeah, I definitely climbed the ladder for sure.
Right. It's a harder gig. I'm telling you, I've been watching. It's kind of like it's intrigued me as maybe a next chapter, but it's changed in the last 10, 15 years. It's like these D1 guys are jumping down to D3. It's crazy.
Well, it has changed, and I'll say this for any person that's looking, to go into college coaching. First and foremost, if you're leaving the high school ranks to go, especially in the public schools, to go to the college ranks, you got to get ready to maybe take a cut in pay. Number one,
right? No, I mean, but that's part of my theory was, and I've talked to my brother about this because I actually applied for the Vassar job, which is in Poughkeepsie.
That's right.
It is
Liberty League,
and they hired where did Steph Curry go? Davidson. They hired a Davidson assistant for that job.
Right.
Like, I can't compete with that. No problem. I mean, I don't deserve an interview, but it's like that's a whole different level. But that was part of my thought is, okay, that would be the next chapter in my life. I'd go do that for 15 years, but. I mean, that's where I have to figure out if I have to go get college experience. But I would also have my teacher's retirement and that, you'd have two things working together. Because you're right. Those D3 guys don't make a lot of money.
No, they don't. But here's the thing. When I got the job at Hiram in 2003, there were 275 applicants for that job. And we're talking about that's 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's gotten way more competitive even now. And now it's gotten to the point where folks that are head coaching at the Division III level aren't coaching a second sport. They're not teaching.
Right.
Many of them are just head basketball coach. So it's become, and as you know, being a former Division III athlete yourself, it's become a battle of facilities. It's a facilities war where you have schools like Kenyon College and Gambler, Ohio, or outside of Columbus, who were in our league at North Coast Athletic Conference when I was at Hiram. $75 million athletic complex, the Kenyon Athletic Center, that was paid for by one man.
Right.
So, plus the education and everything else, people talk about Division III not being it's anybody can play Division III, and that's baloney. It's not true. It's, there are kids that are all state, all everything, 1,000-point scorers, and they get to the Division III level. And, one of my former players in Galway, Ireland, is playing at Lake Forest in the Chicago area.
I know Lake Forest. I went to Lawrence, so Lake Forest.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
the Midwest Conference. And, I think he was assuming he would come in and start right away, and he didn't play a whole lot, but he learned that it's a different ball game. And, when I was in Ireland most recently in March, the Irish national team played Dickinson College. Alan Seretti, a head coach there, a good friend of mine. I was there for the game, and Dickinson beat the national team by 25 points.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's legit now.
It totally is. Yeah. But, hey, the one thing I would say to you, Steve, would be that, hey, the thing is, ultimately, the best coaches, and we talked a little bit about this in our last conversation, that I think the best coaches are the folks that aren't necessarily the college coaches, but the coaches at even the lower level in middle school, elementary school, and some small high schools. I mean, my goodness, how many state championships have you won? 3?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you know what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. The thing is, it's like, and I haven't really delved into it because my son's going to be a junior. It's kind of one of those things. I'm kind of that job opened that intrigued me.
Sure.
Dartmouth grad. It's a good school.
Yeah. Very good.
That's where I want. I would literally. I want to go to a really good academic school. Those are the kind of kids I want to recruit. That was the kind of kid that that's the way I was recruited. So, but it just got me like I put a toe into the water and said, "Ooh, what does this look like?" It's interesting. I haven't really delved into it about.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of these guys have handlers too. Even
they do.
They do. They have people that are going and working the back channels.
Yeah.
To get the door open,
Well, but I want to jump in and talk a little bit about the bias aspect. There are biases, I believe, within, and I'm not to jump necessarily into athletic administration here, but that is kind of my area of expertise. I do have a doctorate in sports management, but I, as someone who is, I just turned 48, and I, was a head college coach, and I have master's and doctoral degree, and I've applied for jobs at the Division III level for many years, and a lot of times I'm not getting looks. I think partly because of the age issue. They think that a 48-year-old or someone who's 50 or doesn't have as much energy as some younger buck. And I'm sorry, but younger folks out there, I think I got a lot of energy. I know Steve does too. So
no, I mean, that's what I told. I was kidding with some of my assistants. I said, if I got in the room, trust me. I mean, they will see that I'm not your typical 50. I mean, but I gotta get in the room. It's like it's like everything. You gotta get that door opened, and that's where I haven't really delved into it.
Sure.
That wasn't super. I mean, I would apply and thought if I got an interview, I'd consider it, but. There's definitely a bias. I think there would definitely be a bias if I was 57 and applying. They're going, oh, he's not going to stay. It's like, what do you think? What else am I going to do? I'm not going to sit in a rocking chair.
Well, yeah. And I would say this, the other thing too, and I've had a couple of people that have come to me because I teach doctoral level students that are working on dissertations and whatever, and they're like, Dr. Rice. For one thing, I keep thinking people call me Dr. Rice. Rice is pretty amazing, but because I barely graduated college. But the thing is, they'll say, well, I want to get a head coaching job, but people are telling me I'll get a doctorate, I won't get that opportunity. And I believe that it's all based on, it's really about your network, it's about building that network and connecting with the right people.
I think so too. I think it's getting that door open, and I think you're right. I mean, I don't remember who I was talking to about this. It might have been Brendan Sir who was talking about, when he was working somewhere. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember what number it was, but he was talking about when he was working, I don't know if he was working for somebody, he was working for somebody in the NBA, and they get thousands of applicants. He goes, I didn't hire anybody from that pile. I hired because I knew this. The people I hired is because I knew somebody that knew somebody. It's all about relationships. It's about connections. So that's obviously, you'd have to play those if you got serious about. I'm telling you, the knock for me would be age and recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would say
I think you can recruit. I mean, I can.
Yeah.
It's the math teacher in me. There's only so many kids that can get into Vassar. So you're not dealing. No, I'm just saying. So if you're dealing with that job, here's your long list of, I don't know, 55,000 high school seniors. 2,000 of them can get in, or whatever it is. So all of a sudden I don't care, this kid's a really good basketball player, he can't get in. So all of a sudden you're dealing with a much smaller pool, which you're all competing for, but at least you know where you are. It's not like you're, trying. Sometimes I think like Wisconsin or Michigan or some of them try to find those gems. They all know who the top 150 are, but they're not going to all get them.
Well, and let me just say too, a great example of how Division III is pretty doggone good basketball is a guy by the name of Duncan Robinson from Michigan, who started his career at Williams and was an All-American at Williams as a freshman, led him to the national championship game his freshman year. And then he said, hey, I think I want to go play Division I, and he jumped. It's not like John Beeline found him.
Right.
So, but he developed himself, and he just signed a contract with the Miami Heat, so. Right. Yeah. So I think that there are, a lot of times there are a lot of folks that don't really give it due diligence, and they don't think through it enough. They think, well, because kids are going to play Division III basketball that are tough, hard-nosed geniuses want to play for free. Actually, that was the recruiting motto we had at Grove City when I worked with Steve Lammy. Of course, he added Christian to it. Right. But, we had, every year I recruited at Grove City, we'd bring in 4 to 5 all-state kids. When I was a head coach at Hiram, I would start off as a head coach with 1,000 names. Right. Cull it down, funnel, and I'd end up bringing 10 to 12 kids in, and inevitably there would be 2 to 3 all-state kids in that group from somewhere in the United States. And so it's a business. It's something, for me, I've talked, thinking about it from the standpoint of where I am as an online faculty member. And again, I've done this for 8 years full time. And the other thing, I live in RV full time. So it's, have the ability to travel and go wherever.
So how do you fly into different spots with an RV?
I don't.
Oh, okay. You always
I go to and from places just to work.
Okay. You leave that once. Because I was thinking you were flying into Boston. I'm going, didn't you leave from You got to go back to the same spot. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm not John Madden. So that's good.
No one drives it to you.
Yeah, no. But the business itself, for any person, for me, having that business and having that lifestyle, I do have a flexibility if I wanted to go after a head coaching job, even as a part-timer in Division III. And even that's difficult to do. It's a very competitive world. And I've talked with my wife, Candy, on numerous occasions about trying to go and just become an assistant coach somewhere and just see what, happens. And I think if I had that opportunity again, I would get a great chance at it. But, it's kind of hard to knock what I do now. So, I get to impact coaches. Do
you stay in warm weather? Do you drive to warm weather at all times? That's what I would do.
Well, I try to. Yeah,
I would stay ahead of the winter.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly aren't going to be right now. I'm in Minnesota. I'm outside of Fargo, North Dakota, but where my mother-in-law lives in Moorhead. But if we have an opportunity to not be in the heat of Texas or the winters here or Madison.
You don't want to be here now.
Yeah. Gives me a lot of flexibility. And, honestly, when it comes to what I do in basketball, I get a chance to there's something about the value. When I go to Ireland, sometimes I think they just smell me coming because everybody's hitting me up. Hey, I want you to do this session. Hey, I want you to do that session. And it's a great ego boost, I suppose, because there are a lot of folks over there that value what I bring. And I was fortunate when I was over there in March to do 3 different sessions actually with clubs.
What do you do in those sessions?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things that I do is based on what the coaches want, really. And a lot of times I'm really focused on the defensive end of the game.
Okay.
So, for instance, with Titans Basketball Club in Galway, I did a defensive session with their under-16 team that ended up finishing third in the country in the under-16 club tournament. And, just worked on every aspect you can think of defensively, whether it was, as simple as jumping to the ball, closing out, utilizing hands, explosion.
Most of it's man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And then I, obviously I'm really big on physical play defensively and really making it tough for the other team. And they know that we've shown up.
And where would they be? Where would that group be in comparison to kids in the Midwest?
I think behind a little bit, only from the standpoint of the Midwest is the Midwest.
Right.
So, I think if you were to take your group of your 16-year-olds from your high school there,
right,
you probably win all your games, not because it's a negative of them. But, there's some good basketball play over there, right, and there's some pretty good coaches too. I think that there's a difference in, I think in our last conversation, just there's more. Yeah. Well, yeah, you got soccer, you got rugby and the Gaelic sports. Hopefully you got a chance to take a look at the hurling. I did. Yeah. So there's a lot of, one of the things, and I'll bring this up real quickly, but Croatia, of course, just doing what they did in the World Cup. It's a country of 4 million people. The Republic of Ireland has about 4 million people, and everybody over there, a lot of people over there were saying, well, why can't we be as successful in soccer? And they're also playing in the Euro Cup.
It's smaller in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Oh, and they play in a high level in their men's side as far as basketball within Europe too.
Right.
And part of it has to do with the fact that Croatia is not going to have the GAA, which for anyone listening, it's basically the Gaelic sports in Ireland with handball, hurling and Gaelic football. Those are very big, very traditional sports over in Ireland, and so there's the best athletes aren't going to be going to specific sports like soccer or sports like basketball. So so to answer your question, I think I think that the game has changed a great deal, and I've been very fortunate working within Basketball Ireland's Elite Performance Committee to help make some changes, whether it's technological changes, whether it's different ways of looking at the game. Also, we just secured in Basketball Ireland, I was very fortunate to help them get an interview with the NBA, and they're starting the junior NBA this fall. Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, they just announced the 11 clubs that were given teams across the country, and fortunately, Titans, which is a group I've worked with, was able to get one. That's one of the clubs in Galway. So yeah. And
do you let's go back to the defensive part. Do you teach them do you do anything specific like pack line or things like that? Or
similar to pack line.
Tweaks to maybe what they see. That's what I would think would be good for them. It's like if everyone else is doing A, maybe you're teaching them a little bit of B.
Yeah, well, honestly, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. When I was at Grove City and worked with Steve Lammy, he's coming in on his 300th win here in the next couple of years. Probably one of the best teachers I've ever been around. He had a system that he got from his college coach, John Barr, called Wedgeline.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
And I teach Wedgeline. It's basically, if you can imagine a V a V from the top of the key down to the corner and top of key down to the other corner. Basically, it's an imaginary line that moves, and that you want to keep your feet on that line. It's on the wing or on the high side, driving them to the baseline area, jumping back, taking angles. There's always strong help side. If you want to get into passing lanes, that's one thing. There's always good one pass away help and recover. There's always it's a physical brand. It also gives you the ability to actually be in good box out position or rebounding position.
It is interesting, and what I've seen is recently, and it's at every level a little bit, is people are kind of funneling down the sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they're almost funneling, so then they can, and when we do it, we kind of trap a little bit. They're literally like two lines parallel to the sideline, and they're actually like, we're just going to keep you over here. Like, we're not going to let you reverse. If you reverse, you have to skip it. And that's really causing, that would be something unique for them too. It's like, it would be a different look. It could be a call or something, but it's like literally like, once it's on that left side of the court, it's not going back to the right side. And if it is, you got to skip it. It's an interesting concept. It's relatively new, kind of flowing through the ranks right now. But
well, the way I'm really big on teaching footwork. I mean, I just had it's interesting. A lot of the things I've been doing, I do a lot of defense only clinics. Okay. And 2 of the 3 that I did in Ireland were defense only. And I also work with a guy named Chris Corbett. And Chris is one of the owners of Basketball HQ, and I work with him with Austin Youth Basketball, and he and I just did a defense-only clinic, the second one we've done, where I led it in Austin this past Friday, and just nothing but defense. And what I like to do is teach. I mean, I literally in every practice that I work, I do UCLA series, which is basically coming to a jump stop, front pivot, right foot, all the way around, getting in a stance, going from foul line to half court to foul line to inline on the other end on the whistle. And, just teaching footwork. And I say, look, guys and gals, because I'll normally have both genders, say, hey, we're going to be doing a lot of this over the next 2 hours. Make sure that you got this down. You're going to see it again. Right. And every time I try to connect it to UCLA series with everything we do, whether it's working on Tibbs closeouts or working on, one-on-one like Laker zigzag, which we do, or whatever, is getting in a stance, having a trace hand, having a ear pull hand here, and just basically working on that kind of stuff. And a lot of it's foreign stuff. And I also teach to them, I should say. And I teach explosion step, an explosion step series that I learned watching Bruiser Flint at UMass Amherst. He took over, of course, for John Calipari. And I watched that in 1999 while I was at Williams, watched the practice, and we used that at Williams, and I've used it with all my teams. And we might not be able to hit the bar outside of a barn with a shot, but we stop people.
Right.
Physically.
Yeah.
It's an uncommon thing.
Right. And how do the kids buy into that?
Well, they buy into it, I think, because of my energy.
Right. Yeah.
When I'm running all over the place and I get pretty excited, and I'm teaching them how to take charges, and I'm diving on the floor, and I'm doing things at 48 years old. What did you do in the other clinic in Ireland other than the defensive one? Well, the other one I did, basically they talked through, they wanted a couple of, they wanted different shooting things, different shooting drills. They wanted more team shooting things. So you have to understand, and when you get a chance to go over, not if, but when, for your ancestry trip.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Tony and Bean.
It's more affordable than you think, by the way. But they don't have many, they'll have like 2 baskets in the gym. So, doing a drill like, yeah, really? Absolutely. Yeah, most of the gyms. Yeah. You have to go over. It's an incredible opportunity to go over to see kind of how incredibly spoiled we are in the United States.
It's like I'm upset I only have 6 rims, only 6 baskets in mine. Yeah.
Yeah, well, your gym at Madison would be way bigger than at Memorial would be way bigger than any gym in the Republic of Ireland almost. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's I basically say, hey, I'll watch him play, for instance, and on video, for instance, and I'll say, this is what I see you need, this, and this, and they'll say, okay, you got him, And, I've worked with the national team, with the under-16 women's team over there before. A good friend of mine, Maeve Coleman, she is a longtime head coach. She's not right now, but she was in the past. And I'd spent 6 hours with their team back in 2016, getting them ready for the European Championships in one day on defense.
Right.
How is
the other stuff? So let's take the basketball. How's the how's the film breakdown and the nutrition and the weight training and all those side things?
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Okay.
I think it depends on the coach. There are some really, really good coaches over there that really have a good handle on that kind of thing, that are utilizing different ways, like whether it be one of the things I was able to do actually with the help of a colleague who got a connection for me, with a company called Longo Match out of Spain. It's basically a video software program that's not as, in my opinion, it's not as good as Crossover or Huddle, but it's something that we got a great deal on that for our national teams, and so we added that. We've added, I have a sport psychology background too, and we added a initiative that we've been utilizing to sport performance psychology professionals over there. That I'm basically, we've come up with a seminar program to work with all of our national teams on things such as self-talk, visualization, self-confidence, even issues regarding burnout.
Right.
And so we've added the sports psychology piece. And then also really coach education. It has been okay over there, and they're just starting to grow more into that. We just started a under 15 academy there, which is
that's the key. Is if they want to, that would be my theory. Is if you got to start with the youngsters. You got to start with the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds if you're going to get them away from soccer and the other sports that Ireland has. That's where you got to get them. You got to hook them early.
Well, and that is why junior NBA is going to be such a huge thing. The director of basketball development over there is a guy named Jason Colleen, and Jason and I are good friends. I work with him quite a bit. He actually played for Greg Marshall at Winthrop, and then finished his final couple of years. I transferred from Winthrop to Augusta State in Georgia in Division II, and he's played internationally for the last 8 to 10 years, I believe, and he's basically helping get that going, as well as a program called Green Shoots, which is a program that starts at the elementary school, primary school levels and goes up. And so I've been helping them a little bit with that. So there's a lot of movement, and honestly, basketball in Ireland is really growing. I think because they're looking at people not only from the inside to have a great understanding tactically and technically, but also, in terms of sport and, conditioning, nutrition, things like that.
Say the last two sentences over again. You broke up there a little bit.
Yeah, my apologies. Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
They started. They also have 2 new strength and conditioning professionals, Peter Madsen and Kevin Foley, who just came on, and then that are working with all the national teams, as well as we're also starting to get into the nutritional side too. So there's a lot. They're starting to get a comprehensive program going, and it's really cool to be part of it. It really is. Just in a small way, yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's a small enough. I think the problem sometimes with the U.S. is we're so big.
Yeah.
That's a small enough. It's the math teacher in me. It's a small enough sample size that you're dealing with the state of Wisconsin. Basically, you're dealing with a small enough sample that change can happen faster than it would on a if you tried to take the whole European nation, it would be impossible basically. But
but the country itself, the whole island's the size of Indiana, so it's not that big. But the thing is, one of the biggest things is, I think, open-mindedness, and that whether it's Ireland or Wisconsin or middle of nowhere Alabama or wherever, it doesn't. Ultimately, people have to be open to change and being willing to make the changes that are necessary to make a leap in what needs to happen. You saw it, in your time at Memorial, and I think that ultimately culture and the ability to make changes isn't completely up to the head coach. It can be part of it, but you also have to have people that you can sell your vision on and that they believe in it.
Right. Yeah. Did you say you were in Atlanta? You were in Atlanta? You're speaking in Atlanta?
No, I actually am consulting at a private school right outside of Atlanta on the Alabama-Georgia border, about an hour and 10 minutes away. Yeah.
That's what you said. Yeah, because I'm speaking at a clinic in Greensboro. I have no idea what Greensboro is, but it's outside Atlanta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which clinic?
The Legends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a brand new one. It's I'm gonna say the date wrong if I say it. I think it's gonna be like the middle of September, like the 22nd, 21st, somewhere around there. Yeah, but I don't. It's like, and then I might possibly be going to one in North Carolina. The problem is I coach volleyball in the fall, so I'm trying to find windows of when I'm not having a tournament on a weekend and that kind of stuff. But
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm gonna take my bride with me. And I said, all right, you can come. You won't see me the whole time we're there, but you'll enjoy being away. So she'll have fun. But
yeah.
So then what's new? What's new for you?
Well, I think one of the biggest things for me has been not a whole lot, really. I mean, I think for us, just doing the consulting at the school we're at, Springwood School in Lynette, Alabama, I'm a very proud alumnus of the United States Sports Academy in Daphne, Alabama. I got my master's and my doctoral degrees there, and one of our alums is actually the headmaster at Springwood. He's a gentleman by the name of Rick Johnson, and Rick was a former head college basketball coach at the Division III and Division II level, and he's been a headmaster and girls basketball coach for 16 years in the South. And he just reached out to us and said, hey, to my wife Candy and I, you guys want to come down and do some consulting with us? And so we spent the last 5 months there in Lynette, and beautiful area. Yeah, I can, it gives me the flexibility and freedom to kind of do. We have a lot more flexibility because of my career choice,
Right.
It's interesting. This is a business that, the online talking to you about, your thesis and everything for your master's degree at Dartmouth, the thing is, this is the business I'm in has become very competitive too. Just like coaching,
Yep.
And I tell people I got in kind of like Forrest Gump got into Apple stock, just kind of, I got in right before everything got really big. And so, I got started in 2008 at the U.S. Sports Academy. So because I have that flexibility, I can kind of go, if somebody has a clinic, like, I don't know, if Matt Smith has his clinic at United Basketball Clinics in Greenville, South Carolina, that's not too far away. I can roll up, drive 5 hours and go watch that, or I can get on a plane and go somewhere. Tomorrow morning I'm flying to Denver to teach all weekend at the University of the Rockies, and so it gives me the flexibility to kind of do it.
I've told coaches too in our community. I said, running a clinic's an easy gig.
Yeah.
And I told some of the guys, I said, I'll come, give me a hotel. I'll come. I'm willing to give back. The only issue is making sure everyone's there when they need to be there. People will sign up. I tell them that. The sign up isn't the problem. The problem is you got to kind of be the if you're running one of those clinics, you got to be like the X factor. Don't put yourself on the list, because if my flight gets canceled, you're going to have to step in for me, kind of thing. It's like, that's the bigger issue for them. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say this too, that I think, one of the things with coaches that have been in the college level, Steve, that have been in for years and years and years, and then they ultimately have an issue where they may lose their job, or they may, like for me, I was very fortunate. I walked away in 2006. I just felt like it was time that somebody else could come in and maybe, take it from where I was at Hiram. And when that happened, I really had to make a decision on what I was going to do next, because it was very difficult to get back in, even at 36 years old, to get back in the college game, even as a former head coach.
Right.
And for me, I was fortunate because I had my doctorate and I had done the work that I needed to do, and I had some pretty good mentors that had helped me out. And, I kind of had a different viewpoint, maybe a more entrepreneurial viewpoint of my career. And, ironically enough, when I walked away in 2006 from Hiram, I didn't, if I were to go back, it was 12 years ago. If I were to go back now, and say, in 12 years, you're going to be one of the consultants with a company. You're going to be going to Ireland twice a year, and you're going to be a full-time faculty member over a school of 400 students and 40 faculty members. I would have said, you're absolutely nuts. There's no way that's happening. I'm coaching still 12 years from now as a head college coach.
Right.
But ultimately, we have to, meet the demands of our reality, which is what, Dr. Henry Cloud, I've spoken about in the last call with you, he's a Christian psychologist. We have to be able to meet the demands of what our reality is. And for me,
which is a really hard thing for a lot of, that's part of the reason I haven't left teaching and coaching. That what you just said is really hard for people to, and the reality of the world we live in is changing too. When you and I grew up, and I've said this before, when you and I grew up, you got a job, you got married, blah, 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 and you dated that job 30 years. And, the world's changed. People are going to have 4 jobs. I call them side hustle, side gigs kind of thing. Yeah. Everybody's going to have 4 of them, and then they're going to change 3 of them. And they're going to, because the world is so fluid that, we're old enough that there was no internet. Like, the funny one is that I tell my kids, it's like, if I miss Happy Days, I missed Happy Days. I didn't get to watch it again. There was no.
But they wouldn't even know what Happy Days is.
They don't. They know what Jumping the Shark is, but that's all they know.
Kids don't even know who Larry Bird is these days.
I tell the story about one of the biggest fights I ever got with my mom was in 7th or 8th grade. The last episode of MASH was on, and I told her, I said, I'm not going to church. I'm staying home. I'm watching this because if you didn't see it, you were done. Like, it was a whole thing, and I stayed home, and it was a whole thing. But it's like. If there was a DVR, I'd have gone and I'd have watched it when I got home. But it's like,
I watched that episode from a Boy Scout meeting in Robertsdale, Alabama on a Monday night. I'll never forget that to this day. Yeah, but for me, I've been very fortunate because now I'm having a lot of my former, my good friends who are like now getting to that point that I got to.
Right.
Now their careers are ending and they're like, Tim, how did you do what you did? I'm like, you just have to get ready to scrap and hustle and do what you need to do.
It's pivots.
Absolutely.
It's pivots. It's like this doesn't work. It's like by the time I ended up with Teach Hoops, I tried like 6 things before I got to the one that I wanted.
Absolutely,
This one works. Okay, then I'm going to run this one, and then I'm going to keep my eye. The problem is, I don't want to be Blockbuster. There's this thing on Twitter right now. I don't want to be Blockbuster. I want to be Netflix. So you always got to be looking for the next thing that's kind of, I don't know. And the old sitting on the porch thing isn't the old days. I'm not going to do that either. So go ahead, go back about a minute here and finish your thought on what you're doing there. I lost you for about 45 seconds.
Yeah. What I was saying basically was that we had I think a lot of folks are coming to me now and they're talking to me and asking me questions about, well, how can I do what you're doing? And ultimately you have to have an open mind about that. And as a young coach, we were focused so much on getting to a specific place, but then you get to a specific place and you're like, okay, now what?
Right.
And for me, it's evolved into a very different, it's evolved into a different career path for me. Right. And it's been a lot of fun.
I think you got to re-challenge yourself. I've won, like you said, I've won 3 state championships. I've been to the state finals, 8. There's a point where it's like, that's the pinnacle of my coaching. That's what you can do. Well, if you don't keep challenging yourself, you're going to get bored with it. It's so you always got to keep resetting you got to, that's where the pivot, and it's like, well, okay, I can do this, but now maybe I can help other coaches and I can do other things. And, I can go and maybe go speak more. I can do these kind of things. Because I've done this, it's like when I was young, I was just climbing the ladder, like you said. So,
but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So I was going to get back to,
what does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Well, let's say people are listening to this and they wanted to get a hold of you, or how does your business, explain how your business works, refresh my memory a little bit.
Yeah, well, my business is called basketballmentoring.com. What it is basically is it's an opportunity. I wouldn't say it's like Teach Hoops, but it has similarities to it. Basically what I do is I come in and I'm kind of like the basketball doctor for them a little bit. I'll go in and watch them practice and give them kind of a prescription on what they can do. I might take their team for a practice. I'll do self-scouting reports for their teams. I help out with resumes and cover letters for coaches. And have a lot of that has been, I wouldn't say put on hold, but most of the work that I'm doing now is through Basketball Ireland with it,
right?
Through a lot of clubs over there. So it's really more a labor of love than it is anything. But yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things for me when I was the head coach at Hiram College, I was fortunate to have had a mentor in the Cleveland Metro by the name of Frank Phillips, and he just passed away about 3 years ago now from cancer. Hall of Fame coach in Ohio, won a state championship as a girls coach at Chagrin Falls High School. And ironically enough, he was the father of one of my players that I recruited to Grove City by the name of Matt Phillips. And he had just retired right before my final year at Hiram in 2005, 2006. And he's like, hey, can I come in and, be involved in some way? And he came in and he would see things and say, hey, Tim, maybe you could do it this way in a practice, or maybe you could change this rotation up in your games. And so that's what gave me the kind of the impetus to actually want to do basketball mentoring.
Right. And I think I'm not sitting where I am if I don't have people like that. I mean, mentors are so important. And the problem is we get these rose-colored glasses when we look at our teams, and sometimes they're not rose-colored because you get these ideas.
Yeah.
And all your assistants and all of you kind of feed on each other a little bit. You know what I mean? But when you get fresh eyes looking at it, it's so helpful. I can't tell the coaches that are listening to this how helpful it is to get somebody that has nothing to do with your doesn't know that Johnny is really kind of a jerk and doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because that's the perception you have, but maybe he isn't. Maybe he just doesn't understand what's going on, or he doesn't, whatever. Those fresh eyes are so important. I can't.
And the lack of bias. I think, when you have bias involved, I mean, we've been talking about bias a lot, but I really believe that is a killer because we get really close to it. And like at Hiram, I was able in my final year. Now Frank wasn't able to help me the whole season, but really it's easy to get to a point where you get biased and you look at certain players and you say, well, that player doesn't do any wrong or whatever. But then you look at the statistical analysis, if you're looking at analytics and they're like, oh, they're the least efficient player on the court for you. You're like, maybe I'm missing something. Right. And that's why somebody can come in and without any bias. For me, I've worked with numerous high school and college teams in the United States, and of course worked in Ireland with some high schools clubs or, secondary schools clubs, primary schools, and also the national teams there with Ireland. And, I never would have imagined 12 years ago when I left college head coaching that I would have that shot.
Right.
So it's been good.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Anything parting, Coach?
Well, I think one of the things that's really important when it comes to any kind of thing that you do in this business is you have to really believe that, first of all, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you're doing the right things by your kids. And I have to stress the importance of sports psychology and really how that can impact your team. Because I really believe that so many times I don't believe we look at that enough as coaches. A lot of coaches might have a little bit of information on that, but there are a lot of good sources out there. And,
right. And the thing is, it's an undeveloped mind. That's what it drives me bonkers from someone that's taught for 30 years. A 15 to 18-year-old, and I'm dealing with boys, but a 15 to 18-year-old, their brain is not fully developed. There's a reason they're not putting the dish in the dishwasher. They're not being like, there's reasons for all of it. And that's where you got to delve. That's where you got to dig in deeper.
Absolutely.
And that's where, you got to find the meaning behind it. Why are they not doing that? Why are they late all the time? Why are they? Because for the most part, most of them aren't doing it to be defiant. They're not being, they're not losing their keys because they got teenage brain kind of thing, Well,
but also, I think the other thing too, though, is that in any scenario, we can't necessarily. I don't think we should be looking at it at the actual thing that happens as much as what the root might be that led to it.
Right. Yes.
Too many times we fail to think about what kind of family life these kids have. And maybe they have one parent in the household, or maybe they just broke up with their girlfriend. Maybe they've got issues in the classroom where they're not doing well. Maybe they had a family loss. You just don't know. And that's why it's important not only to really think about psychologically what your players are going through, but also you have to be able to know your players.
Right. And they don't have the tools that you and I maybe have to deal with some of those things. Now, there's people that don't have the tools either. That's a whole different issue. But hopefully we over the years have gotten some tools in our toolbox to deal with some of those things, So that I think that's what's lost in the coaches. I think that's a good spot to end, Coach. I think that's good for people to think about. So
super.
Thank you. All right, hey everybody. I hope you're enjoying this. Make sure if you want to hear more, go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. If you want to hear other podcasts, go over and check out High School Hoops and Teacher's Side Gig by Coach Collins, and subscribe, review all of them. 5-star reviews would be nice. Have a great day.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, Rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, Rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowes.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.